The first thing we're going to do is make sure that we've set up our bank accounts correctly. Under the Finance tab on the main menu of webElect, we're going to click on Bank Accounts. You should have listed your main checking account already. We're going to scroll over and click on Edit. What we're looking for here is to make sure that we properly set the election ID. The election ID can be set using the drop-down menu. The numbers correspond to election dates. Make sure that it's set on the current election. So this would read 2016, November 8th. That's our current election. We'll select that and then click Save. And I'll show you that it's saved up here. We're going to click Back to go back to our bank accounts list. Now we need to add a new account called Other Distributions if you haven't done this already. We're going to click on Add New. The type of the account we'll set using the drop-down menu to Other Distributions. The display name we can use as it defaults to Other Distributions. That way we always remember what that account is. You don't need to change the display name. Set the election ID as you did last time using the drop-down menu and select the corresponding date for the current election for your campaign. And then we'll hit Save. And again, it'll show you that it's saved at the top. We're going to click back on Bank Accounts, and you can see that indeed we've now set up this new bank account called Other Distributions. Now that our bank accounts have been set up correctly, we're going to click back to the main menu. Now we're going to enter our first expense, the reimbursement of the person who made the purchase. We can search for that person using the search bar at the top, or you can look in your contact list if they've already been added. I'm going to use myself as an example. We'll go to the search bar, type in the last and first name, and search. In this case, the person that I'm looking for appeared. If the person you're looking for does not appear, you can always add a new contact using the Add New Contact button. In order to access their expenses, we're going to click on the red $ icon. If you've never entered an expense for the person, this may appear gray or a light shade of red as opposed to the bright red that you see here. But as you mouse over it, you'll see that it says Expenses and Distributions. Go ahead and click, and it's going to bring up a list of all the expenses and distributions that this person has had. If they have never had one entered, then you'll see a blank form where you can enter the first one. You'll enter this reimbursement expense as you would any other expense. You'll see that everything is set up in these fields. It's been pre-populated to the person you selected. The changes that we're going to make, however, is going to be over here. The account will keep as checking, but under type, instead of monetary, you're going to use the drop-down menu to set it to reimbursements. Again, under type, we're going to set it to reimbursements. The check number you can use for your own tracking, or you can leave that off. We'll just do it for our dummy purposes. We'll say that the reimbursement check was 101. The date you'd set like you normally would, and then under amount, you can enter the full reimbursement amount. If you're reimbursing them for just one purchase, then you would just use that one purchase. But we're going to pretend that we're reimbursing someone for 3 separate purchases, totaling $175. So I can put in here $175. Again, we can use the total amount here. We're going to do the itemized distributions for the separate purchases in just a little bit. As always, we can put in our category, and you need your purpose. The category, again, is for your own tracking. So I'm just going to leave that blank, or I can put in other. But again, that's your own tracking. The purpose, though, is what's going to show up on the state financial form. And I'm just going to put in here reimbursement. If you do fail to put in a purpose, when you go to save, it's going to alert you that you need to put in a purpose. So you can't mess that up. All right, at this point, we can save and close. And just to double check, if you click now on expenses, it'll come up and show that indeed the expense we just entered has been created. And you can always add new if you had to do more reimbursements. All right, now we're going to go back to the main menu. And now it's time to enter as expenses the itemized distributions, meaning the separate purchases that were made by that individual. So again, we're pretending that we had an individual who made $175 worth of purchases. And we're going to say that it was done in 3 different purchases. All right? The first one we're going to say was a purchase from Staples for $75. So again, using either our contact list or the search bar up here, you can go ahead and look for the business organization if you've already created it. If not, since this is a voter list, you're going to have to use the Add New Contact and create a new business or organization, and I'll show you that in just a minute. All right, so same thing, we're going to click on Expenses for Staples, the red $ icon. Since there's never been an expense created for Staples, it just shows you the blank form, which has been pre-populated with the information we put in for this business. All right, now on this one, we're going to do something a little different than when we use the individual. If you recall, for the individual, we left our account type on checking. When we're entering an itemized distribution as an expense for a business or organization, we're going to change the account type from checking to other distributions. That's why in the very beginning we set up that bank account called Other Distributions. Under Type, we're going to do what we did before and put it in as a reimbursement. Again, the check number is for your own recording purposes. I'm going to put one in here, but that does not show up on the state financial report. You have your date and then the amount. I'm going to say that from Staples we purchased something for $75. Remember, the total purchase that we had was $175. Category, again, my own accounting purposes, office supplies. And the purposes, I'm going to say this was paper and ink. I'm going to go over here. Instead of hitting Save and Close, I'm going to hit Save. You'll see that when it does this, it takes me out here to this screen. It shows that I've got this expense that I just put in. And now we're going to go ahead and link this expense to our main reimbursement transaction. So I'm going to click on the pencil icon over here in the right corner of the expense where it says Edit this expense if I mouse over it. Left click on that, and it brings up my expense. Underneath this form that I filled out before, now we have on the bottom half of the screen something that says Linkable Expenses. Any reimbursements that you enter will appear here. So if you've entered several reimbursements, you'll have several options to choose from. We just have the one that I recently created, and this is what I'm going to link it to. It shows that the reimbursement was for a total of $175, and it has $175 remaining to link to because we haven't linked anything yet. Let's go ahead and hit the link button, and now you'll show that we linked $75 worth so far, and there is $100 remaining to link to. And then we're going to go up here, Save and Close. So we've linked this $75 purchase at Staples to the $175 reimbursement that we made. All right, we're going to enter another one now. We're going to look for the Gate gas station, and we're going to say we're reimbursing for some gas. Same thing, I search for it, or you can use your contact list. On the final one, I'll show you how to add a new contact if we needed to do that. We're going to go down here to Expenses and Distributions. Again, one hasn't been created yet, so we'll create the first one. If it was already created, you would just hit Add New. All right, the account type, we're changing to Other Distributions. The type, we're changing to Reimbursements. The check number is the same, but that's just for you. We're going to say this was $50 worth of gas. The category, my own purposes, and the purpose, it was gas money. We're going to hit Save. It takes us out here. We can go to the Edit button, and now we show the linkable expenses. Here was my $175 reimbursement. There's $100 remaining to link, and we're going to use $50 of that $100. All right, so now $125 has been linked. There's still $50 remaining. We can save and close. The final expense we're going to enter is for some food bought at the Publix grocery store. Since I've never entered Publix as a business here, if we were to search for it, this is a database of voters, it's not going to appear. So in this case, if you haven't added the business or organization you made a purchase from, you can just go up here to New Contact. We'll select Add New Contact, and it'll come up here and show we're going to put in our contact details. If this were a voter, we'd input things under the name field. It's an organization or a business, though, so we're going to come over here to the Other field. Under Organization, I'm simply going to put Publix. I'm going to file it as Organization, so Publix will show up. And then I'm going to want to make sure that I put in a work address for this. You need an address for the state report. Mine I'm just going to make up, but obviously you would want yours to accurately reflect where you bought your purchase from, the actual business address. Okay, so let me just put in my dummy address. And then we're going to go up here and save our contact. Now that we have the contact saved, we can use these icons at the top. We're going to look for the red one, red $, expenses and distributions, and we'll go ahead and click. All right, and just like before, since there hasn't been one entered for this, it shows us a pre-populated field to add the first one. Again, our account, we're going to need to change to other distributions. The type, we're going to change to reimbursement. I'll enter my dummy check number. You don't even need one. And the amount, this is going to be also $50. Right. Category, this is food. The purpose, this is going to be food for an event. And we'll hit save. Takes us to here so we can see that our expense was entered correctly. We'll go ahead and click the edit button, and it shows our linkable expenses. Remember, the total reimbursement was $175. There's $50 remaining, which is correct because remember, this was a $50 expense. So if you had a discrepancy, you would know then maybe you made a mistake in entering something. And we'll link this. All right, perfect. There we go. Now we've set up a $175 reimbursement to an individual who made 3 separate purchases. And we recorded those 3 separate purchases and linked it back to that main reimbursement expense. So we'll save and close. To check this, we can go back to our main menu. You can look here at your bank accounts again, and you'll make sure that your balances are correct. If you just clicked on your checking account, you would see that we had this check in here on October 28th. Check number 101 for $175. That was our reimbursement to the individual. You can go back to bank accounts. We can click on other distributions and see that we've got 3 different items entered, each for their corresponding amount, each showing the proper balance. We can also go back to the main menu and look at our financial report and see what that would look at. So under finance, we'll click on state reporting. Under the reporting dates, we're going to use the drop-down menu to select the current month that we're in for our current report, or you could use this tool over here to manually set the period that it covers, the starting date and the end date. And then under Action, we're going to click on View Report. All right, so my dummy report is going to be very short because I don't have anything else entered than just this example, but it'll show you that expenditures in this report was $175, so that was the amount of our reimbursement. So that shows that it didn't. Those linked expenses made sure that we weren't combining things. So it wasn't saying 175 for the reimbursement and 75 and 50 and 50. Because we linked it, just the 175 shows up as we wanted. Underneath here, it'll show that we did a reimbursement to this individual for $175. And if we continue to scroll down throughout our report, you get to the part where it shows itemized distributions, and this is what is required by the state. It's not enough to just say that you reimburse somebody. The state needs to know what for, and this shows 3 different purchases, $50 for gas, $50 for food for an event, and $75 for paper and ink. And together, that adds up to the $175 that we wanted. All right, so again, those 3 steps, the first thing you're going to do is make sure that you've set up your bank account properly. Then you'll go and enter the reimbursement expense under the name of the individual who you're reimbursing, the one who made the purchase originally. And finally, you'll go and enter in an itemized distribution fashion all of the separate purchases that that individual made under the name of the company or organization from whom they made the purchase. As always, thanks for watching webElect How To.